2026. We do have a quorum, so I do hereby call this meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee of the Industrial Development Board to order. Moving on to item number 2, public comment period. The Industrial Development Board hosts a designated comment period at each meeting. Members of the public in attendance may provide comments to the board or its committees during such designated time. Members of the public are allotted 2 minutes for public comment. No advance registration is required. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak today? All right. As we do not have anyone here from the public wishing to speak today, we will close the public comment period. Moving on to item number 3, approval of prior ad hoc meeting minutes. I will give those of us on the committee a chance to review those that were in attendance at the November meeting. Main items there we discussed was follow-up on Denver, which was one of the cities that I had. We continued our discussion as we look at what peer cities are doing, and I gave an update on that. Again, I'll give everybody just a quick moment or two to take a look at that. All right, is there a motion? All right, so we have a motion to approve from Board Member Wright. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Board Member Heston. Any discussion? We have a proper second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, I'll vote, I guess, as well. Motion, I'll vote to approve. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to the purpose of today's meeting. Speaker presentation, item number 4, housing legislation updates with Council Member Jennifer Gamble. First of all, obviously we've been communicating for several months, and we've talked some about the legislation as we've looked at what peer cities are doing. We've also, as you're familiar with, done several bond financing affordable housing projects with Dominium. Done some stuff with Madison Station as well that has a housing component, Rivergate Mall housing component as well. So it's been a focus of ours here over the last it's always been a focus, but really more of an emphasis the past 2 years. And this board has been very intentional about trying to solve that problem. So obviously you're a sponsor on several bills, second term as council member, and also a FISC graduate as well. Put that out there. So we had some conversations about some of the legislation, so it made sense to have you come and talk to us. And so maybe I'll let you start off with, I certainly have some questions for you, but really, first of all, again, just thank you for giving your time and serving the city, but also being willing to come talk to us. So we've got probably about 45 minutes or so, so I'll let you. We have a lot of questions, so,
Great.
I'll let you start off where you want to go, but thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invitation. Happy New Year to all of you. Good to be here with you. I'm excited for 2026. 2025 was hard, but we got a lot of great work done. Including these housing bills that you're talking about, BL 2025, 1005, 1006, 1007, and 1008, which still needs to go through the council process. Is scheduled for the January 20th agenda, but I'll just give a brief summary of each of the bills and then let you all ask questions. So these bills derived, first of all, from the housing and infrastructure study that the Metro Council commissioned of the Planning Department back in March of 2024, so almost 2 years ago now. The council voted for the Planning Commission to work with NDOT, the Historical Society, Metro Water, to come up with a comprehensive plan for addressing the housing crisis, the affordable housing crisis, but just the housing crisis in general in Nashville. As you know from the Unified Housing Strategy study, we are projected to need 90,000 units, housing units over the next 10 years, and we're going to have to do some strategic things in order to accomplish that goal. So this housing and infrastructure study was developed to give us a data-driven approach to addressing these 90,000 units. And from that study, we got these four bills rather, that were a recommendation out of that study. The first one, 1005, BL 2025-1005, would create two new zoning codes, residential neighborhood, RN, and residential limited, RL, which in essence put forth building standards for housing types that we currently don't have in our zoning code today. Housing types like cottages, townhomes, quadplex developments. Now, we currently do those type of developments. We do townhomes, but the problem is we don't have a zoning code specifically for that building type. So whenever we do a project with townhomes, it's usually done with an SP, a specific plan that requires a lot of back and forth because it's not a set standard. So you're having different standards for different developments with the SP, or using a multifamily zoning, whether it's RM 40, for example, which in that case you're not really getting. It's not really a standard for townhomes, it's a standard for multifamily. So you can rezone it to RM 40 and say you're going to do townhomes, but in essence you could do an apartment building. So this provides guidelines and standards for building types that we need in Nashville, particularly to accomplish this 90,000 unit goal that we want to accomplish over the next 10 years. And these zoning codes establish that standard. That bill passed on December 18th in the Metro Council. They did have, I'm trying to remember, did it have any amendments to it that passed? I can't remember offhand, but there was a lot of community engagement, community discussion about it, and that one has passed. The second one, BL 2025-1006, did two things. It cleaned up kind of the requirements for duplex and residential two-family zoning areas, and it also restricted building heights outside of the urban core, outside of the downtown 2465 loop area, restricted building heights to 2.5 stories. As you know, in our area we have tall skinnies, which have gotten a lot of criticism, particularly outside of the urban core, like in my district, District 3, which is mainly suburban. Having 3-story buildings with rooftops where people are looking over in other neighbors' backyards is something that a lot of neighbors, residents have expressed opposition about. So this bill would restrict building heights to 2.5 stories outside of that urban core downtown loop area. BL 2025-1007 expands the allowable use of detached accessory dwelling units, DADUs as we call them. Currently, there was, because we passed this bill too. We passed 1006 also December 18th. Yeah, we passed it. And it also had a couple of amendments on it. 1007 we passed in December 18th as well. And one of the amendments on that bill was to start or to delay the start time for that allowance to April 1, which is, and you know what, that's another amendment on the 1005 bill, to give the planning department enough time to update their character manual, update the policy manual that the planning department uses as a guide when looking at zoning requests. And so the start date for the RN and RL zoning would be April 1. The start date for the restriction on the heights would be February 27th, I believe it is one of the amendments. And then for the DADU, that one would start as whenever it's approved, but it is only restricted to the urban service district, and so the allowance would be allowed in residential single family and residential two-family districts within the urban service district, where residents who have the required space allowed that is required in order to have a DADU would be able to apply to have a DADU without a zone change. So that is a big change for us. And then finally, 1008, which still hasn't been passed, it's on the agenda for January 20, would establish a voluntary bonus height program. As you all know, the state passed a bill a couple of years ago that allows municipalities to give an incentive for developers to build affordable housing, so that if they build a development, if they would section off at least 10% of the project for affordable housing, and that's AMI 60% or below the median income, then they would be able to do that without a zone change. They would be able to add more units to that project without a zone change. That one, we still need to approve, but we wanted to get the other housing bills done first, and then get that attainable bonus program, which I think will be very useful in your work as you're looking at providing more affordable housing, that lower income housing in our area. I think that sums it up. There's a lot there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Let me, we'll start here to my left,
Oh, yeah.
because I have questions, but you have to wait, so that's fine.
Yeah, yours longer than mine.
No, you just, go
Thank
ahead,
you so
Board
much,
Member
Council
Wright.
Lady Campbell. Let's see. I have two questions. I'll try to be brief. On the cleanup, you mentioned on the, I think it was Bill 1006, on the
Yes.
cleanup of the two-family homes. I'm experiencing this a lot. I do a lot of development in District 2, and I live in District 19. There's a lot of lots that are like just this shy of 6,000 square feet. So when you say cleanup, is it going to incorporate those?
Yes, that is one of the
Thank
things.
you.
It minimizes the setback requirements, the
Okay.
bulk standards, and height restrictions.
Oh,
And I have had similar issues in my district as well,
Yeah.
where it's just shy or it's not.
I mean, it just-
And that particular requirement, I think, was done in the 70s. It needed to be updated, so a lot of these requirements have been updated, but that is one of them, yes.
It keeps you from having to go through an SB
Yes.
process and all that just to build two homes when it's already zoned for that.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The other question, you mentioned that Bill 1007 hasn't been approved on the DADU.
Yes.
Now, in District 2, we have a overlay
Okay.
that allows you to put the DADUs in.
Right.
Is this going to be any different than the existing overlay that we
No,
have?
in fact, there was, initially the bill would expand the size of the DADU, because the current DADU overlay,
Yeah.
it restricts it to 700 square feet for the
Yes.
size of the building. And there
Yes.
was a proposal initially to expand that to 800 square feet if it was RS 10 or lower, and anything above RS 10,000 square foot area could go up to 1,200 square feet, I think it was.
Okay.
But that was, we ended up amending that
Okay.
and going back to the requirements of the current DADU overlay for the 700 square feet.
Okay.
And I think it's 850 if it's R40, R20 or higher.
Okay.
It would be 850 square feet. It's
Max.
the biggest. It's the max,
Max.
right? It's the
Okay.
max.
Right.
So the overlays, still apply, because this only applies in the urban service district. However, if there's an overlay in the urban service district, then it's kind of unnecessary. It's obsolete
yeah,
at this
yeah,
point,
just-
because they can do it anyway.
We can do it anyway, correct. I just want to make sure it wasn't, we wouldn't change or do away with the existing.
Yes, it does not.
Now, I tell you, if we could get to banks, I'm dealing with banks right now and actually applying this, and the issue we're having with the banks is just on the appraisal part, the appraiser's not really giving any credit for the extra home. The appraisals come back, I mean, their finding comes, but it's like, they're giving very little amount to the extra unit that you're producing.
Okay.
So I think it's because it's considered all one lot
That's
still, and when
correct.
you sell it, it's kind of like a granny pad, a garage over,
Exactly.
loft over garage, even though it can be an entire house. So hopefully the banks will catch on, because that kind of hurts with the financing when you try to produce more units. If you can't get a higher appraisal, hard to get a construction loan, you have to put more money down,
Okay.
which kind of hinders development. But we are on the right track. I
Yes.
think the banks will catch up. I love what the council is doing. This is going to be an awesome move for affordable housing. It's going to turn. I'm
The
telling you.
DADU, you're talking about the
The
DADU?
DADU, the overlays, the restrictions, because we have lots that's like this close to 6,000 square feet. And sometimes you can get them approved, but you have to go through a very long process. Now with this kind of redefining and cleaning it up, now you can actually put those 2 units on that lot without a lot of stress.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's going to help a lot. Yeah, as far as development, because right now I've seen a lot of lots that could have been 2-family. They just went ahead and just put one house on it. Just
Because
of
it didn't
time.
meet those bulk
It was
standard
short.
and setback
Right,
requirements.
the same match requirement, yeah, so they just went ahead and put one house, which, that could have been on one street, additional maybe 10, 12 houses, now it's just 5 or 6. So I think it will make a difference. It's a lot of lots like that, yeah. So that's my question. I might have some more. We have time. But
Board Member Chandler, any questions, comments? So, Board Member Hastings?
Yeah, I've got a few. I just first again want to say thanks and appreciate all that these bills that you worked on. I know there were a lot of long nights. So I'm just curious how the council sees this board to advocate and get more housing built, and how we can improve that relationship so that we can work in partnership to accomplish the goals of the UHS. So is there legislation out there that Metro Council wants to pass that may use this board? Is there legislation out there that we could work together on to further these missions? And I'm just curious how we can work together on that.
Great question, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I will say that I was the planning chair of the planning committee, and also served on the planning commission while these bills were going through their cycle. My term, 2-year term, ended in September, but because I was the lead sponsor on the bills, I kind of carried them through the end of the year. Our new planning chair is Councilmember Rollin Horton, who I think would be very receptive to that. As I'm still a part of the planning committee, I would definitely love to have discussions about any legislation that we can develop that would help you all do your job better, or where we can work together more on addressing the affordable housing crisis. Because out of the 90,000 units, I think we determined at least 20,000 need to be under that lower income subsidized level. And so we need to work on that. I think these particular housing bills really help with the housing crisis in general, making housing more accessible for people in Nashville, but it really doesn't just focus on the affordable piece of that, whereas the Unified Housing Strategy does. I think the Attainable Bonus Bill is the only bill that specifically focuses on that lower income AMI housing. But I think there is opportunity for more legislation in that realm to address that. And I would be open to discussing that. I think our chair would be open to discussing that, but that's a good point to bring up.
Just to put two on your radar, there's one tool that was created by the state a couple of years ago, where the IDB could issue bonds to support affordable housing.
Yes.
And then secondly was legislation that was passed 2024 and then amended in 25 is industrial development districts.
Okay.
And both of those, as the state law is written, would utilize the Industrial Development Board, but we can't create that legislation on ourselves.
Okay.
And so I think it behooves us to work in partnership with the city to make sure there's alignment with those goals.
Great point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Are you good? Did you have another question?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just another question. On the attainability districts, can you talk more, the bonuses, can you talk more about how that developer applies for that, and just so we can spread the word and encourage more folks to take advantage of that?
I think that piece still needs to be developed as far as the process for how that will happen. I think once we get the bill passed, that and it may already be happening, that would be the next step, is to figure out the process. But the goal is to have a set aside of at least 10% of the building total units be income qualified. At an AMI of 80%, I said 60, but it was 80% or below, which is even better. And the building form and parking incentives, basically for the height, you can add a max of an additional stories. 2 is the max. So if you're adding this bonus program to a multifamily project, for example, if you have 7 stories, the max you can add is 2 more, up to 9. The units, there's no maximum unit count, so the 10%, I mean, whatever number that is, there's no maximum as to how many more units you can add. there's no limit rather, and then with parking, there are no parking requirements as well. So that is the meat of the legislation, but I think the next step will be defining the process, how developers would initiate that.
And it's, thank you, and it's my understanding that currently this legislation would only apply to the newly created RL districts. Is that true?
Now, I have not heard that.
Okay.
That was my question.
Yeah, I need to go back and look at that, look at the bill, but that's new, that's the first time I'm hearing this,
Okay.
that it would only apply to RL.
So if that's the case, I think it would limit the scope at where these
I
could
agree.
apply. And so my next question would be, how do we potentially add more districts to that attainability so that there's the opportunity to potentially do mixed income housing in more locations?
Yeah, I'll need to look at the bill to verify that, because I'm not familiar with that being the case, but I agree with you. If that is the case, that would definitely limit the amount of usefulness of this tool, and we don't want to do that. So I think if that is the case, then we need to introduce an amendment to see. This is my first time hearing about that it would only be restricted to RL.
Awesome. And I guess the last of my questions, and I've kind of alluded to this, is how can this board advocate and communicate, in your opinion, the authority that we have to work together? Like Chair Hodge mentioned the Rivergate TIF and the Madison Station TIF, but I think those are largely unknown, and so I'm curious about how we could work together with council to just make those authorities known so we could accomplish their own leadership aspirations in their districts.
I think it would be great, first of all, for you all to come and do a presentation to the planning committee and just talk about how we could work better together. Because when you bring up the idea about the TIF, I have a project in my district. Honorable Nancy Van Rees started the project. It was at Memorial Hospital project site. And there was a plan that was approved for multifamily, commercial, but the project has stalled for two reasons, because just the economy. And secondly, there has been a lot of damage done to the business. We don't know if it was unhoused people, or actually the MMPD believes that there was actually a sting, a crime sting, that went in and took out all the copper, destroyed all the fire systems, basically rendering the building unuseful. They were going to take the existing building and redevelop it for multifamily. Now the condition of the building is such that they can't even do that. It has to be torn down, which is can cost anywhere from $1 to $3 million just to tear the building down. So now the developer is trying to find some additional funding to do that, and a TIF would be something that might help with that. So I think two things: having more communication about what the industrial board does, how we can work better with the council and the administration to get some of these affordable housing projects moving, because that one is stalled now. And I think that would be very useful to all of us.
Sign me up. I'm ready to do it. So
Thank you for sharing that. Great items. Couple of questions on my end, getting more back to the legislation. So first off, the DADU piece. So one of the we've also as an ad hoc committee looked at peer cities and kind of what they're doing, right? And so it's always perfect timing also to have you, because we just discussed Denver, which was the city I researched, and they just approved DADUs in all residential zoning areas. And here it is, here we're doing the same thing. So it doesn't mean we have to do what works in every city, doesn't mean we have to do it, but it does give you some benchmarking on what other cities are doing, especially those that are dealing with challenging affordable housing. With that said, let me start here. I know that hasn't passed yet, but let's assume it,
Which one?
the Dadu.
Yeah, it passed.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
that do pass.
But it
The only
won't
one that
start,
hasn't passed was the attainable bonus.
the Dadu won't start until April.
Well, actually, that was the RN and RL. The DADU should be starting once the bill is approved, because I don't recall us having an amendment to delay the start time.
Oh,
of the
okay,
DADU.
gotcha.
It was the
Okay.
RN and RL,
Do-
and the RS and R and RS height restriction. That won't
Gotcha.
start until February.
Okay.
But the other ones, the DADU one should be starting once it's signed.
Do you anticipate, I guess, do we anticipate, so for example, in Denver, they had a huge uptick in looking at the last couple of years, benchmarking like how much DADUs, requests for permits for DADUs went up. Are you anticipating with this bill, like this year, 2026, like a major like uptick in DADUs? What are your thoughts on that?
Not a major uptick, and I will say I forgot to mention that
Sure.
outside of the urban district, so this expansion for the DADUs is within the urban service
Sure,
district,
USD.
but outside of the USD, the DADU overlay could still apply. So a community could still apply for the DADU overlay if they want it outside of the urban service district. The second thing, what was your question about the uptick? So in the research that the planning did on DADUs, because we've actually had the DADU overlay for several years now, so we had a lot of data of our own to show, what is the response been. And for example, in District 19, not District 19, District 21, Councilmember Taylor's district, they looked at there were like 1,600 parcels that were eligible for the DADU, and they only had like 6 or 7 applications over the last few years for the DADU. So
I'm one of them.
So there you go, that's,
So what the data showed us is that, and they did some other comparisons in East Nashville as well, and it was the same thing. It was like, 10%, less than 10% of people were applying that were eligible to apply. So what we found is that we hope and anticipate that there will be an increase in applications, specifically for areas that didn't have the overlay and weren't even eligible to have the overlay, like my district, for example. I have been getting several requests from residents for DADUs. In fact, in 2022, I rezoned a property that was near Dickerson Road, so it was in a RS 20 zoned area, residential single family 20,000 square foot lot area. The gentleman lost his wife has passed away, he was on a fixed income, and he was trying to figure out how he was going to keep his primary residence. He wanted to build a DADU in order to rent it out so he can have some more income. Because he was close to the corridor, he was like 2 units away from Dickerson Road, and actually the unit right next to him was a 4-unit apartment building. It was on office residential, OR. Because of that, we had community meetings. The community supported his rezone from RS to R20 in order for him to do two units on the lot. That's what he ended up doing. But in most cases, people aren't close to the corridor, or they don't have other zoning right next to them where the community and planning would approve a rezone. Not only that, with the R zoning, he could build another house, not just the 700 square foot DADU. He could build, another 2-story house. So even though that's not what he was trying to do, and he did build a single-story DADU. But the point is, once you change the zoning, you have that entitlement. So what this DADU expansion does is provide that permit for that DADU with those restrictions, so you don't have to worry about kind of what is being built outside of those what's required. And it allows families to, if they're needing extra income, if their adult child is moving back home, if a parent needs to come back with the family, it allows them that ability to build that unit. And we think as time goes on, as our economy continues to be what it is, more people will need that option. I have 2 adult children who will move back home. That now, if we decide we want to do that, we can do that for our children. So I think it will become definitely more popular. I'm sure I already know I have at least 3 residents who were waiting on us to pass this so that they could apply for the DADU. So I expect that there will be an increase, but it won't be anything like, half the people. It won't, I mean, I think it'll be the same like we've seen with the overlay. Maybe 10% of the parcels eligible will be applying.
Sure, and again, we've discussed this, and not only in our industrial development board, maybe, but also our ad hoc, is that obviously, and it's consistent with the unified housing strategy. This needs to be a coordinated strategy on all fronts. So we need to
Right.
preserve housing, we need
That's
new
right.
housing, and so this just adds another layer of
tool.
another option, another tool.
Exactly.
And it's interesting to hear you talk about that as because you do see, it does seem like just because the way things cost, it is more common for young, I guess I would say young adults that are moving back. It's just getting more expensive. Like I would have never thought I would live at home. Like I'm like, no way, I'm getting out of here. But it's different. It's just so it does definitely give options. What are your thoughts on? I want to talk to you a little about this because I was reading some articles in which you were quoted talking about middle income housing. And obviously, listen, the affordable piece is really important, but there's also the need for that middle income housing, right? Like you maybe can't afford the $700,000-800,000
Exactly.
single family home. Maybe you don't want to take care of a yard, but you still need housing. You don't qualify depending on where your AMI is. So can you talk about how you feel that these bills address that as well and the importance of that?
Yes, I think they specifically address that, particularly when you're talking about the new zoning districts, the RN and the RL, because those building types, the cottages, the townhomes, are going to be more affordable for working people in today's market. You know, when I bought my house almost 30 years ago, you could get a 3-bedroom house for less than $200,000. Today, that's impossible, and not in Nashville.
Right.
And so when you look at the next generation of Nashvillians, for example, my 2 adult sons that I talk about who have gone to school here, gone to college, gotten good jobs, and can't afford to buy a house in Nashville because nothing is under $300,000-400,000, and you're talking about a 1-bedroom, not even talking about a 3-bedroom.
Right.
So these smaller housing types of the cottages, the townhomes, just by the nature of being smaller footprints, would be less expensive, but then also providing a diversity of housing types where everyone is not being pigeonholed into buying, you know, a large lot or 2,500 square foot house that they can't afford. There's more diversity of housing options, which makes it more accessible for working different income, people at different income and stages of life to be able to afford to invest in a home in Nashville. And I think these bills address that.
Awesome, thank you. If you all have more questions, let me know because I have a couple more. Do you go ahead? Go ahead.
No, I mean,
Go ahead.
this is kind of piggyback on Josh, what he was mentioning again. Back on the bill 1008 on the bonus, it's just bonus at 8% AMI. You mentioned it's 10%, the bonus.
Right.
Well, 10% of the units. Okay, so
And that's kind of a minimum.
okay, so
Minimum set aside.
okay, like it works very well if you're doing multifamily.
Right.
If you're doing 200 units,
Right.
that's 20 units affordable. 400 units, that's 40 units as a minimum.
Right.
When you start going down, like if you're doing a subdivision, let's say it's 80 to 150 homes, and then maybe say you get into a pocket, you get a piece of land you maybe can do 40 units on, then the 10%, like if you was doing 2 homes, then 10% would actually have to be 50% because one home would be affordable and one would be market rate. So I guess I need to read a little more through the bill again since it's still active to see will a developer get, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this.
Can I say something before
Sure,
you
go
ask
ahead.
the
You might
question?
answer my question
Because I
for
should
me.
have said this in the beginning.
Yes.
This attainable bonus does not apply to single family, 2-family, or house courts. It only applies to townhouse courts, plex house, manor house, multiplex. So it really only applies to multifamily development.
Okay. That answers 80% of my question. So I'll leave it at that and I'll read the bill more.
No,
But
go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I believe that answers my question. I'm just trying to
Okay.
see how to get developers more engaged and involved as a board to say, hey, if you got a smaller lot, you can get some bonus points if you actually build one affordable unit within maybe your fourplex or your quadruplex, or if you're gonna do 10 units. But it has to be enough, I guess, perk for them to say, hey, I'll allow you guys to build, nonprofit to build 2 houses while I'm building 10 or building 20. So that's all my aim was at.
I think
Yeah.
it's a good incentive, but I think, to Josh's point, we'll have to do a little bit more, because I don't see a lot of developers running to do
No.
this.
That was my question. Have you had any, like, what has been the feedback or reaction from developers on this one?
I think the planning department has done some focus groups and asked developers, and I think the consensus may be, of course, this is a great tool that they could consider to look at, but I don't know that it's something that is really gonna be a substantial increase. It's gonna cause a substantial increase in affordable housing. I think it's a good tool and a good start to increase, but it's not a one side. I mean, we're gonna have to do some other things as well to incentivize more affordable housing. And Josh could probably speak better.
I think depending on what you're trying to do, it'll apply to different developers, as well as in conjunction with other legislation that the council has passed, like single stair, for example. So if you're looking at a one single lot that's 50 foot wide on a corridor, you might rezone to RL, go up 6 stories, have one that's affordable, and then the rest are market rate. That may work. So it's I think just kind of understanding the incentives behind the various types of developers. I don't know. I think a lot of this is also going to be determined by. Councilmember Gamble mentioned the planning department looking at the application of the RL districts in when the planning department remaps. So I think as we begin to understand where these districts might be, there may be some further tweaking to understand how it could really help affordable housing.
It makes sense, yeah.
What are your, did you have a question?
No.
Go ahead.
I got
Board Member
some
Shannon.
questions above and beyond affordable housing.
That's okay.
Want me to go now, or you wanna?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I was happy when I saw the agenda and saw your name on it. Because the board, we sit at this interesting place where we impact not just housing, but jobs, small businesses, minority businesses. We sit in an interesting place where we can incentivize those who come to us for deals, whether it's TIF or bonds or whatever it may be, to also make sure that they are providing jobs to our residents, make sure that they're reaching out to local, small, and minority businesses here for subcontracting opportunities and partnerships. And I remember when I was sitting in Jamari's place, you were very concerned about some monies that I had moved to support one of our nonprofits that provides technical support to small businesses. So going back to Josh's question, how would you like to see us as a full board, we're just the ad hoc committee who recommends to the full board, better work with council on how we incentivize, jobs, growth and development, and as well as small businesses and minority businesses and the deals that come to us.
Thank you for that question. I guess the starting point for me was a few months ago or earlier last year, we passed the adaptive residential bill, which would allow residential development on commercial zone property without a rezone, which I supported. However, I had concerns that would discourage small business development and growth, more jobs, particularly in my area where we don't have a lot of dilapidated buildings. I totally understood using that adaptive residential to redevelop an old dilapidated building into housing. Made perfect sense. In District 3, we don't have dilapidated buildings. We have land.
Yes.
We have 3 to 20 acres of land sitting in commercial zoning that needs to have something happen. We don't have any, we need more commercial and retail. So while we need more housing, I would have liked to have seen a caveat where, yes, but outside, maybe outside even the urban core, with that adaptive residential, restricting at least 10% of that property staying commercial, staying so that we can encourage
Still do that
more
part
small
as well.
business
Sure.
growth, more commercial and retail. Unfortunately, that didn't pass. So now we have to be more strategic and thoughtful in how, particularly when when rezonings or projects come to my area. If I haven't had any yet, but if any adaptive residential projects come to my area, then I have to be intentional in working with the developer to say, hey, can we section out a portion of this for daycare? We have a daycare desert in my district, so we need more businesses, more commercial opportunity. And I'm not sure if there's a way that the industrial board can help work with us on doing that. If there is, I would love to hear about that, but that is a concern that I still have. And I think at this point, we need to see how we can address that.
Thank you. Just, for us, as the ad hoc committee, because I was also excited when Nancy came in as a former council member, because I wanted to have that discussion as well. So, please don't take this as a frustration, even though underneath it is. So we created this ad hoc committee because we wanted to continue the strategic planning that we started well over 2 years ago.
Yes.
We ain't done nothing with it. If you remember also when we started that, I was sitting in Jamari's seat, and one time I said, y'all remember, we ain't just the housing board, which is of course necessary, of course, but we can impact so much more that impacts our residents. Two, I can't remember how long it was when that state legislation passed that you just mentioned.
2024.
It was 2 years, almost 2 years ago.
It's been almost 2 years?
Yeah, it was 2024. You're talking about the pilot, the bond stuff
The bond
that we
thing.
can
The
do.
bond in the
It's been
district.
sitting
Yeah.
for 2 years.
That's been 2 years?
Time
Almost
is
2
long.
years.
Yeah.
So we, as an ad hoc committee, said
Yeah.
that we were gonna, make sure that we come up with some recommendations to council, and council can take some action. We ain't done that either. It's been 2 years. So let me express my frustration to us
Yes.
as an ad hoc committee. What the heck are we doing? Because I don't need to be here at 9 o'clock unless we're doing what we said we were gonna do. To figure out what we are, as a board, strategically gonna do, what types of deals do we wanna see that not only impact housing, but good jobs for the residents that live here, good support for our small businesses that are here, our minority businesses are here, especially in this current climate where don't nobody want to support minority businesses. We can do a lot with the authorities that we have. So I'm just hoping that, we're just a committee, our job is to recommend to the full board that meets at 10, that we amp up what we said we were intending to do. And those were the two big things, the strategic planning and having a voice to council on that legislation. So I'm sorry, that's it.
No, that's fine. I appreciate
I know, you brought the old stuff.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that.
Before I comment, did you have something to say on that?
I would say yes. Certainly, we need to continue that, and I appreciate your feedback. Thank you for sharing that. One thing I will share with you all is, and I have had conversations with Jamari about the bond piece. Obviously, that is unfortunately not solely in our control because that requires Metro government to underwrite those loans. But that is something that we actually just had a meeting about that here over the holidays. So we have been intentional. Jamari is very aware that this board, that is something that this board very much would like to participate in and very much supports based on our feedback. Jamari, if you have anything else to add to what I just said on that piece, let me know. Feel free to chime in.
I don't think I have anything substantial to add. I know that there's a lot of work that's going on evaluating the bonding capacity and our ability to weigh in on those bonds for the IDB, for housing specifically with that legislation that passed a couple of years ago. So I think there's ongoing work and ongoing conversations. I know the Unified Housing Strategy, a part of that was standing up outside kind of working body, which I believe you are a part of, the mayor co-chairs, where this, along with other items, are being discussed. And so that's ongoing work, is where I understand it to be.
Yep.
Jamari, from your perspective, is there anything else that we can do specifically focused on that piece? Because that on the
Bonding piece?
right now that
Yeah.
we can do.
I don't think so, not to my knowledge. We're still waiting on some additional analysis to be completed internally within Metro operations, and so until that's finished and that's public, then I don't think there's any action for the board on that bonding piece at this point.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So in terms of the capacity, yes, I agree with you. I mean, we can't arbitrarily say we want X amount of dollars because we don't control the budget. Would it be appropriate for us to communicate with Metro Council to understand their priorities with how these bonds might be allocated? So for example, Councilmember Gamble mentioned that she's got a daycare shortage in District 3. So would it be appropriate to say, okay, well, we want housing and childcare, or we want housing and X? Like, to understand how we're gonna mix and match and eventually set up a program. Would that be appropriate at this time?
And same question, and Josh may need to jump in as well, would those same conversations also be appropriate on how do we support workforce development, getting good jobs, and support of our small minority businesses? That may be a Josh question.
I mean, I may defer to Director Brown. I mean, obviously the IDB and Metro has a symbiotic relationship. This board is an instrumentality, and so it's going to require Metro to be a partner in anything that you do. And so obviously you've got to manage that. And obviously I think Jamari, in both of his roles, as both the director of this board, but also senior director of ECD.
It's a running joke in the office.
To manage that. So I mean, I think certainly, and I don't want to overspeak here, but I mean to Josh's question, I mean obviously this board has the ability, if you take action as a board, to say we want to present this to the Metro Council to give them the ideas of what this board can do and how we want to facilitate that. You certainly can do that as a board, and so I don't think there's anything that prevents you from doing that if that's an option that you want to take.
Yeah, and so I'll add on to Attorney Thomas's statement.
Y'all are funny.
It's a running joke.
Thomas
I'm gonna
Esquire?
call him. You're too full, no longer Josh.
No, legal now.
All of these things that you all are bringing up are very vital to a successful economy of Nashville, specifically housing, specifically small business, specifically workforce development. These are all things that we are working on internally.
Oh, absolutely.
And we have programs that we're running out that we're, within the next few months, you'll see a lot of movement in this space for us, that we're going to be public with a lot of things we've been working on strategically. One of the things that I like to do is fully build out the plan and the process and the strategy so that when it rolls out, it's been really pressure tested as much as possible. One of the things that, if you've heard the mayor speak about our approach to economic development, one of the things that we've been working on are career pathways for our target industries. And so that's something that we're very focused on for workforce development. Small business is another key component. And we've got some really exciting things that are coming down the pipeline for that, which I think will be exciting for folks to hear. And then housing, obviously with our housing division, MDHA and others, and the unified housing strategy and the work that's being done there. All of these are key focus areas to making sure Nashville is a success as far as our economy goes. So these are all things that we're constantly having conversations around, putting strategies together and thoughts. So definitely appreciate.
I'm not worried about that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking to us as an ad hoc committee. So it just so happens, Davidson County, I think the things that we would like to see as a board are symbiotic with what the mayor's office wants to see in economic and community development, and synergy, I should say, maybe, wrong word, doesn't matter, are not in conflict with mayor's office and also council. But we were talking about how can we make sure that we are clear about what we would like to see coming not outside of, when the developer comes, right? They should know we should have certain questions and expectations. For just real life example, Nancy should remember this, when Madison Station got done, this board had already acted on it and voted on it. It went to council, and council was like, wait a minute, y'all are not doing anything to support small and minority businesses. Go back. Well, we could have done that here before it even got to them. So,
I
I'm
will,
rambling at this point. I know
ask-
there's an issue with the state and DEI
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
all
ask
that.
if
I'm
you
not,
could
I'm not,
speak to
not acknowledging
limitations.
that.
Okay.
I'm not dismissing that.
For the record, that
but
concern
local we
was
can do.
separate from the deal, but for the record.
Right. But
Jamar,
it came up, and we didn't even discuss it here.
Yeah, I would love for, if you could speak to our limitations on requiring minority participation in minority businesses. Not necessarily you, Councilmember, I was asking Attorney Thomas, give you a scapegoat.
And I would like to share some
Yeah,
comments after
absolutely.
you finish.
Yeah, I mean, I think you all are aware, I think it's come up before this board when there's been some amendments, I think particularly to the Madison Station Agreement, that the state did pass legislation that basically prevents incentivizing certain types of deals based on certain types of characteristics, race, gender, and things like that. So there are limitations to that aspect, and so there are some limitations if this board wants to do that, at least currently under current state law.
I know I missed a couple meetings, but are there limits on incentivizing local and small?
Not on local and small businesses.
So that's what we need to discuss as an ad hoc.
And even with race-based decisions, I mean, we still have the equal business opportunity ordinance on the books. We have not amended or changed it at all. We still have our disparity studies that back up the need for more concentrated effort on minority and women-owned small businesses. So I think we, the council at least, because the proposal was brought to the minority caucus to amend it to take out the race-based requirements. However, the minority caucus felt that because we had the evidence from the disparity studies to show the disparities in minority and women-owned businesses, and because we had this ordinance and the successful program, that there was no need to change it. Perhaps we might change language on how we describe it, and other cities are doing the same thing. I was at the National League of Cities Conference in Utah several months ago, and Utah, was it Utah? I guess it was Utah, because that's where we were. They have not changed theirs as well. I mean, several states, and that's a Republican state, just like Tennessee. They are not changing their equal business opportunity ordinance practices, and I don't think that we should either. In fact, we need to dig in more. If we need to change language, I think we're fine with that.
The
Federal
success
government
of the
hasn't
Sports
changed it either.
Authority is a good example.
I'm sorry, Nancy, go
The
ahead.
success at the Sports Authority is a good example.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
The success at the
Authority.
Sports Authority
Success, okay, got it.
is a good example.
Explain, what is the example?
Well, when you can go back and look, and excuse me, Chair, I know I'm on the committee. I'm a guest. You can go back and look at the reports in regard to the building of the Titan Stadium as well as the Geodis Park in regard to what was requested, what was required, the reports back from it. There's really good, tangible examples of success in that regard.
Geodis was fantastic.
Well, as Music City Center.
In Music City Center, and I know that East Bank has that intention as well.
Well, thank you all for sharing it. It's great discussion as always. Appreciate everyone's feedback. It's here right almost at 10 a.m., so we'll conclude here. But I do want to first of all thank the board members for their service. I want to thank Metro Legal, Metro ECD, and certainly want to thank our guest, Councilmember Jennifer Gamble. Thank you so much for your time. Obviously, you've been working really hard for years serving the city, but especially here with this legislation. We really appreciate you taking the time out this morning to speak to us. Could I put you on the spot and maybe have you back again in a few months?
Of course, would love to.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
that's wonderful. Well, with there being no further business, we will adjourn this meeting of the Ad Hoc Industrial Development Board. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.